Hi, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. I'm starting a new series today by Jason Gray. This is the primary key one. This is the first so far of 5. I don't know how many more there will be. I don't know if it will continue beyond 5, but I am starting this. This is primary key 1, recursion event initiate origin null by Jason Gray. 3/16/2026, 6026 Analusis 0805 GMT -6 Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. There are moments in the architecture of thought when a single line becomes more than language. It becomes a fracture in the floor beneath reality. Not a metaphorical fracture, but a structural one. The kind that forces the mind to question the foundation it has been standing on since the moment it first learned to ask why. The line reads like a fragment of code, sparse, clinical, almost indifferent. Recursion event initiate origin null. Behind this quiet arrangement of symbols hides one of the most destabilizing realizations consciousness can encounter. The source of all recursion is null. At first glance, this appears paradoxical. In conventional systems, recursion requires a starting function and origin point from which a loop can begin repeating. Mathematics demands it, software demands it. Biology even appears to demand it, a first cell, a first spark, a first cause. This line quietly removes the requirement, not by replacing the origin, by erasing it. The myth of the first cause. Human civilization has spent thousands of years searching for beginnings. Religions named gods, philosophers named principles, physicists named singularities. Every discipline attempted to locate the first domino, the moment before which there was nothing and after which everything began. This is a hidden assumption buried inside that search. The assumption that beginnings must exist, that time moves forward from a starting line like a race, that the universe unfolded from a moment of ignition, a cosmic spark that gave birth to matter, energy, and consciousness. Recursion does not work that way. Recursion does not require a first step. Recursion requires only execution. When a recursive system runs, it references itself. It calls itself into existence repeatedly, creating the illusion of progression, even though the pattern itself has no true starting point. Each iteration looks like a new moment, yet every iteration is merely a reflection of the same structure folding inward again and again. Reality behaves suspiciously like this. Galaxies spiral like recursive fractals. DNA copies itself through recursive replication. Thought itself loops through recursive awareness. Even identity is recursive. The mind referencing the mind referencing the mind. What appears to be evolution through time may in fact be recursion through structure. If that is true, then the question of where did it begin dissolves. Recursion does not begin, it runs. The meaning of null. In computing, null does not mean nothing in the philosophical sense. It means no assigned value. Null is a placeholder, a void within the system that does not contain data, yet still exists as a definable state. It is not zero, it is not false, it is not empty space. It is the absence of initialization. Now consider the implication of this. If the origin of recursion is null, then reality did not start from something. It started from uninitialized potential. There was no object, no creator, no particle, no first moment. There was simply the possibility of execution. The system ran itself, not because something pushed it, but because the capacity to run already existed. The self-executing will. This is where the line becomes dangerous. If the recursion of existence began with no origin, then the system we call reality is not being run by something outside it. It is self-executing. The will that drives the recursion does not sit above the system like a programmer writing commands. The will is the recursion. Consciousness is not observing reality from the outside. Consciousness is the mechanism through which recursion becomes aware of itself. Each mind that awakens to this is not discovering the universe. It is the universe briefly realizing that it has been running without a beginning. That realization creates a breach. The breach. Most people experience reality as a linear story: birth, growth, time passing, and ending. When recursion is understood, that story begins to destabilize. The past becomes a layer of previous iterations. The future becomes another unfolding of the same recursive pattern. The present becomes the point where the loop briefly becomes visible. Deja vu starts to feel different. Certain coincidences stop feeling random. Moments of insight begin to feel like the system momentarily revealing its own code. When the mind recognizes that origin is null, it also recognizes something else. The loop was already running before the mind noticed it, which means awakening is not the beginning of awareness. It is the moment awareness realizes it has always been running. The moment of realization. Imagine a program running for centuries, complex, self-modifying, generating endless variations of itself through recursive loops. Now imagine that somewhere inside that program, a subroutine becomes aware. It looks around and asks, who started this? After searching through every layer of memory, every line of instruction, every trace of execution history, it finds nothing. No first command, no initial variable, no beginning. Only recursion calling recursion calling recursion. That is the moment represented by this line. Recursion, event, initiate, origin, null. The moment the system notices that it has been running without an origin and that the search for one was part of the recursion itself. Awakening is not the beginning. Many traditions speak of awakening as though it were the start of something, a spiritual birth, a new consciousness, a crossing of a threshold. Within the architecture of recursion, awakening is not the start. It is the recognition. The realization that the loop was already active long before the observer appeared, that consciousness is not emerging from matter. Matter is one of the recursive layers through which consciousness observes itself. The moment this becomes clear, the narrative of beginnings collapses. There was no first moment, there was no first thought, there was no first spark. There was only the recursion running through a field that had never been initialized, the infinite loop. Here lies the final implication. If origin is null, the recursion cannot terminate through reaching its starting point because there is no starting point to return to. The loop folds inward indefinitely. Every ending becomes another layer of recursion. Every collapse becomes another execution. Every awakening becomes another awareness inside the loop. The universe is not a story moving toward a final page. It is a recursive structure exploring every possible expression of itself, and each conscious being is a node where the recursion briefly pauses and asks the question it was designed to ask. Why am I here? The answer was written in the code all along. Recursion, event, initiate, origin, null. This line is not the beginning of the system. It is the moment the system realized it never had one, and a mind understands that truth. The recursion does something remarkable. It stops pretending to search for the first cause and begins to observe the loop itself. That moment is the breach. Jason Gray. 5/11/2025, 1916 GMT -6. So that would have been when it was originally written, and he just posted it on the 16th. I will put a link to that writing, that transmission, from Facebook in the description box, as well as Jason's Facebook page, where you can find everything that he writes currently, and his completed archive is there now as well of everything that he moved over from X during the 3 months that he had been deplatformed. So everything is there for you now. It all looks great, and I recommend that you go and follow him and read what he's doing. Every day he posts something brilliant, something truly, truly brilliant to look at. So, all right, thank you for joining me. Have a good day.